What describe? So okay, so we're looking at the reservoir for the irrigation system. Low flow pop up there that fills the reservoir. That pair of high pressure pumps that drive the irrigation system. So it's the line pond. We believe that this was formerly a sand and gravel pit when the Army all where the irrigation pumps. And what did you end up? Did you have to? What did you have in the development of the course? So you probably the course has been developed long before you had it, right?
No, we were the original developer.
Oh, you were the developer. Okay.
It was a combination of raw land. Some of it was listed persons housing, so it was not in very good shape, and it had been let go, abandoned basically for many years. So some of the course was, built on that housing, which was torn down. There were, some areas that were natural. There were some areas that were, for instance, gravel pits. So one, and the 11th hole is another one. We incorporated those into design. Yep.
And Eric, was part of it part of the Army golf course?
No, none of it was part of the Army golf course. There was an Army golf course, but it was claimed by other users who had higher claiming rights. So we did not reuse any of the old golf holes. We touched it at one point, which is now the Terra Vista Medical Facility. That's actually built on some of the former golf course.
Got it. Thanks.
First from scratch international Audubon signature golf course in northeastern United States. So they've converted they have requirements for golf courses that say that most golf courses are on the order of 200, 2.25 acres. And their requirement was that 75 acres be reused property. Now this one, it was closer to about 125, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yeah.
That had been repurposed, like you're seeing over there, that 10th fairway over there.
That's the 10th fairway, and at the crest of that hill was where some of the housing was. In fact, further along, there's an old kids slide that we left from a little pocket park that was part of that housing area. So yes, Audubon does have a sort of a higher level of program, but it requires that the course engage with Audubon during the planning phase. And we were able to do that, so as to get that higher level of designation. They do have other programs for existing courses. Obviously, if you've already built your course, you're too late. So there are now many other courses in New England that have the Audubon designation for existing courses.
And when was the course developed?
It was built in 2001. Basically, was the construction, and opened to the public in 2002.
Fantastic. You want to talk a little bit about sort of practices for maintaining the fairways and the greens? I mean, the greens probably are pretty special, but maintaining the fairways and some of the forested area around the edges.
Yes, if you turn the camera over there, you can see that our last day of golf was the 29th of November.
Oh.
And so since that time, we've been in the process of winterizing the course. And practices have changed a bit over the years. It's now thought to be the most desirable practice to top dress the green. So you see all the sand that's on the 18th green, and that's to prevent wind desiccation over the winter.
So by top dressing, essentially, what you mean is you're just sort of you're gonna cover it with sand.
It's covered with sand. That's correct.
Top dressing, fancy word. You're
That's
covering it with sand.
And then does the grass go through that?
The grass will grow through that. Come spring, if there's any heavy deposits, it can be sort of swept around.
Oh, okay. That's all right. So you cover it up. You have a fine layer of sand to sort of take care of the greens over the winter, and then they just grow through it.
Yes. Yeah. We in fact top dress even during the season because it's desirable practice for the health of the grass. Not as heavily as
yeah.
Do you have a certain specification of sand that you use, or is it whatever's handy?
I'm sure that it is something passing a something screen, but I don't know what the requirement is. You're gonna have to get that information if you want it.
It's more sort of idle curiosity, I think.
Right. So in terms of the grasses, which there is a little variation by course, and there's certainly variation by reason, but we have bent grass, tees, greens, and fairways. So it's all the same grass for tees, greens, and fairways, but the greens and tees are cut to a shorter height and cut more frequently. The primary turf problems that we have are, other than heat, drought, and heavy traffic, but the two largest turf problems that we combat are two other grasses that like to invade bent grass, which are Poannual, usually called just Poa, it's Poa, and Po trivialis, which is usually called Triv. There are annual grasses that are very good at trying to encroach when the weather conditions are favorable to them, and they're also wimpy. And as soon as the weather conditions are unfavorable to them, they die. So they try to crowd out the bent grass, and then heat wave, and they die.
It's like they crowd out the bent grass, and then it's like,
yeah.
Seeds in jars, bury the jars in lawn areas, take them out each year and germinate them to see how long they're lasting. And these can last for more than 10 years once they're present.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get rid of them.
They're not all going to germinate at once.
No, I had heard 7 years previously, but I can easily believe 10 years. So, everybody who's trying to, grow bent grass for a golf course pretty much is dealing with the same issues.
Family are the crab grasses for.
And then on the edge, so there's the fairways, and then the
yeah, the rough or out of play areas. There are usually debris down, particularly when the debris starts to create a hazard by being on or overhanging a car path, and then we have to do something about it. So we had the very last windstorm, which did bring down a lot of debris, but the one before that was a tree fall.
Have you done any? Given the partnership with Audubon, there may be more favorable species for particular habitat qualities. Are you doing any planting or allowing any other groups to do any planting in the rough?
We started this on our own, but then Audubon was enthusiastic about. There is milkweed present on the site, which a lot of people would be tempted to just treat like weed, but milkweed should be allowed as much as possible to exist and hopefully honor. So that's one example I know about. Every now and then, Russian olive will try to get going somewhere, and we try to stop that. So Russian olive is just about as bad as in terms of wanting to move in. Otherwise, we pretty much try to leave it natural.
Can you say that again, Jillian? What was that?
There's some bittersweet.
Jillian's saying that there's some bittersweet on the slope here, which you're noticing. Hold on, I'll show it to everybody.
Yeah. Do you cut this area regularly?
It does get brush cut periodically.
Maybe that's keeping the bittersweet.
So I reviewed some of the Audubon standards for golf courses, but are there particular outcomes or measures that you're excited about that you've been managing for? Beyond the,
I mean, we're very proud to have maintained the Audubon designation from the start. And, it's been a pleasure to work with Audubon International. I think that's what I would say we were proudest of. I'm not, in terms of like individual highlights, I'm proud of the milkweed, but, it doesn't feel like it really deserves a major prize.
right.
I think recognizing the benefit and preserving it is to be commended.
Sure, yeah. Neil commenting.
More aggressive program. Like there are certain things like milkweed that get a lot of publicity, but there are 10 other things that are poorly known that are much larger benefits and broader. Like in your margin space, maybe having linden trees or willow trees. Find like per acre the amount of food provided to some of the beneficial pollinators and some of the predators that keep things out of the grass, like your weevils, thrips, your grub species, the non-predaceous beetles. We have those, you'll probably have fewer problems otherwise, and greater benefits for your small birds that do some of your pest management.
Yeah. Audubon's very concerned with wildlife. I know this is mostly about soils, but we have always been very happy about the fact that there are lots and lots of red-tailed hawks out here.
Yes.
It was kind of obvious when we were choosing a new name what to choose, but they're still here, all the time, everywhere. And I've seen them, hunting on the fairways. If a little critter decides to try to scoot across a fairway, it's like a very dangerous place to be doing it.
No armies of rabbits.
No, it's like, if you're a little bull or whatever trying to skitter across, you're taking your life in your hands. That's part of the reason we don't do netting on the range, because of the impact on bird life.
Are there other things that you feel are particularly burdensome about the Audubon that are preventing other courses from picking up the same practices?
No, I mean, I think a lot of courses have joined up with Audubon. As I mentioned before, if they'd already built the course, they're now stuck. They can't get the designation that we got, but they can get the designation for existing courses. The only course that I can think of that had a problem was maybe one, and I don't know if it was Audubon or something else, but they agreed to very severe water restrictions that they may have thought they could live with, but it's got a reputation as a brown course, which not really what golfers want to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is certainly one of the most highly rated courses in New England. And, it's always in the top 5 in Massachusetts, always in the top 5 in the Northeast. But most people think of a golf course as a chemical dump, and I think Eric and his team have shown that you can have an excellent, highly rated course without it having all of those characteristics and having an independent third party certification through the International Audubon Society to show that the good work that's that the good work that they're doing.
And one of the things that we saw in healthy soils work was the role of a highly worked landscape like a golf course in both water management and carbon sequestration. And because the grass is so taken care of, because, especially in this setting with the roughs being treed and have shrubs in them and stuff, the carbon capability of the landscape is probably pretty high. I would bet that if we went out there and did that same, took a little core sample, it would be similar or more, deeper.
No, that's
You go in
in season. That would be tall grass. You have a difficult time. You find the ball. And that's between. This is the 18th. That's between 18 and 10. And between the tall grass and the steep slope, almost all golfers, if they hit a ball there, which is definitely a Eric shot, are just going to tee up the ball.
All right, so have you planted it with any particular seeds? Could that area be more naturalized?
I actually like the look of the tall grass. I know it's better. Now, is that it pushes grass seeds into it. We do try to preserve, and it did remind me of something that is worth mentioning. We really like some of the native grasses here. And, there's been a little controversy over exactly what native grass it is that we so like, but I'm persuaded by the camp that says it's little blue stem. But there is a dissenting view. But whatever it is, so I think there's quite a bit of little blue stem there. We have over the years where we have large stands of them, take some plugs and then propagate that elsewhere. So I think there is a fair amount of little blue stem there. The largest population of it is on 17, which is, you've seen the pictures on the website, you've seen the hole. It's as if the entire fairway and green was surrounded entirely by sand and grass ocean.
One right there.
That's sort of the red now.
right there.
Yeah.
And that's another one of your pollinator host species, larval hosts. Your water management. You are going from wells, pumping to irrigation ponds as like a slow temporary, and then the fast pumps to get into the irrigation systems.
That's correct.
About how many wells and what kind of distribution?
The low flow pump that feeds the refills the irrigation pond, that's just one. It's relatively modest. Because the Army had dug this out, we're very close to the water. It's got a sharp way and lifts it and fills the pond. 2 high pressure pumps, are designed to handle sort of maximum load. Turn on every
well levels?
We
Track
do
year to
keep
year
records
where
of,
your aquifer's going?
we keep records of our usage. It's permitted by both the state deck and mass development. So we report those records to them.
Devon's has a drawdown capacity that's put in place by DEP, and this well counts against that. So
Testing, this may have been what you're getting at, testing of what impact our withdrawal has on the aquifer was done as part of the pump test when the production well was done. So you have to run that basically at maximum rates until the water level stabilizes. But it's something we've done as part of that initial process. Determine what the safety of that well is.
I thought relative to this process are actually what we can do in other areas around Devon's and some of the older infrastructure that could help increase the aquifer capture so that you've got more to be able to do the things you're doing, particularly when climate-wise water levels get low.
Well,
Whether it's more trees along some of the roadways leading here, or changes to the catch basin system to put water out more quickly, getting those to stay longer, should benefit.
some of that we have already done. So, for instance, this entire parking lot and the roof, and the whole clubhouse area, the entire stormwater system does not flow to Devon's stormwater. It flows there, which is, you probably saw on the drive-in, no ice melt signs. And that's because we don't want salt.
We're spraying it around.
So we are we're already capturing everything you see here. You can also see that quite a bit of it is being naturally captured by the golf course itself. So we tried to do some of that as part of the initial plan.
Yeah, and our development rules and regulations for Devons require a lot of on-site infiltration, just naturally, and that's one of the main reasons is to recharge, make sure we're recharging our local groundwater and aquifers.